Okay, now we're just going to try to figure out in which quadrant is each ratio positive or negative. So I'm just going to label the quadrants first, and I always start in the top right is quadrant 1, and then just go counterclockwise. 1, 2, 3, and 4 are the 4 quadrants. I'm just going to mark in that these are all right triangles as well. And now we're just going to figure out is x and y, are they positive or negative in each quadrant? So in the first quadrant, because I'm going to the right and up, x and y are both positive. In the second quadrant, because I go to the left, x is negative and y is positive. In the third quadrant, because I go left and down, they're both negative values. And to get into the fourth quadrant, the x value is going to be positive and the y value is going to be negative. And lastly, no matter what quadrant you're in, the radius is always positive. The radius is just the distance from the center to the outside of the circle. And now we have everything we need, so we can start figuring out sine, cos, and tan, whether they're positive and negative in each quadrant. So sine is y over r. So because the radius is positive, then sine really just depends on the y value in each quadrant. So I'm just going to highlight all the y values in each quadrant, and that's what sine is going to be in each quadrant. So in quadrant 1, sine is positive. In quadrant 2, sine's also going to be positive. In quadrant 3 and 4, they'll be negative. Cosine is x over r. So because radius is always positive, just like sine depends on y, cosine just depends on whatever x is in each quadrant. So I'll just highlight all the x values in each quadrant. So because x is positive in quadrant 1, cosine's positive in quadrant 1. Because x is negative in quadrant 2, cos is negative in quadrant 2. In quadrant 3, it'll be negative, and in quadrant 4, cosine will be positive. So tan is really just y over x, but since sine and cos already show us whether x and y are positive or negative in each quadrant, we can just look at them to figure out tan. So in quadrant 1, positive, positive, if I go a positive number divided by a positive, I get a positive. Quadrant 2, positive, negative is going to be a negative. Quadrant 3, negative divided by a negative is positive, and quadrant 4, a negative divided by a positive is negative. So now I can tell if sine, cos, and tan are positive or negative in each quadrant, and we just need a way to memorize it. So in quadrant 1, everything is positive, so we always say all. In quadrant 2, only sine is positive, so I need a word that starts with S, so often I use the word students. In quadrant 3, only tan is positive, so I say take. And in quadrant 4, only cosine is positive, so I use calculus. And so then I always use all students take calculus as a mnemonic device to help me memorize which trig ratio is positive in each quadrant.